What if the energy decline of aging is partly a mitochondria cleanup problem? Not just fewer calories, not just less sleep, not just getting older. What if a big chunk is that your cells keep old, busted mitochondria, and forget to take out the trash? That's where the word mitophagy comes in. It's a sticky science word because it's basically cellular housekeeping for mitochondria. And today we're talking about a supplement that claims to help, Urolithin A. This is not a hype video and it's not a takedown. It's a clarity video, what Urolithin A does mechanistically, what the human data suggests, who it's for, and who should skip, because improving mitochondrial biomarkers is not the same as proving longevity. Let's start with mitochondria and aging in plain English. Mitochondria are your cellular power plants, but they're also your cellular exhaust system, because they generate energy and they generate stress signals. Over time, mitochondria can get less efficient, more damaged, and more leaky, in ways that show up as fatigue, reduced exercise tolerance, slower recovery, and higher metabolic friction. The body has a solution for that: quality control. Your cells are supposed to identify broken mitochondria and recycle them. That recycling is mitophagy, mitochondria-specific autophagy, where damaged mitochondria are removed and components are reused. Here's the key story beat for longevity. Aging may partly be a failure of housekeeping. When mitophagy declines, dysfunctional mitochondria accumulate. And when dysfunctional mitochondria accumulate, the whole system feels older than it should. Now, what is urolithin A? Urolithin A is a compound your gut bacteria can produce when you eat foods rich in L-argitannins and ellagic acid, think pomegranate, walnuts, and certain berries. The catch is that not everyone's microbiome makes meaningful amounts, which is why a supplement exists in the first place. This is important because it's not really a plant supplement. It's more like a postbiotic, something you only get after microbes transform what you ate. So two people can eat the same pomegranate, and one person gets a meaningful urolithin A signal while the other person gets fiber and optimism. That microbiome variability is why direct supplementation is interesting. It standardizes exposure, and in longevity science, consistency matters, because we're trying to change signaling over weeks and months, not chase a one-day energy spike. Now, the mechanism claim. In preclinical research, urolithin activates mitophagy pathways and improves mitochondrial turnover. That's the hypothesis: fewer broken mitochondria hanging around, better mitochondrial quality, and better cellular energy efficiency. But here's the first myth to bust. Urolithin A is not caffeine. If you take it and expect an immediate energy hit, you'll think it doesn't work. The plausible mechanism is adaptation over time, mitochondrial cleanup and signaling changes, so this is more like training than a stimulant. Now let's talk human data, because that's where this supplement is different from a lot of trendy compounds. The human evidence is still early, but it's real. One of the most relevant trials is a randomized clinical trial in older adults, roughly 65 to 90 years old, taking urolithin A for about 4 months. The primary endpoints were whole body performance measures like 6-minute walk distance and a hand muscle energy measure, and those primary endpoints did not show a significant difference versus placebo. But the important finding was in the secondary endpoints. Muscle endurance improved in both hand and leg muscle endurance tests, and biomarkers of mitochondrial health shifted in a favorable direction. Plasma markers like certain acyl-carnitines and CRP also moved downward compared with placebo, which is consistent with improved metabolic efficiency signals. Translation: in older adults, urolithin A didn't turn people into superheroes. It did show a durability signal, endurance, more than a strength or VO2 max miracle. And that distinction is exactly what you need to set expectations correctly. There's also a randomized trial in middle-aged adults where urolithin A supplementation for months was associated with improvements in muscle performance measures and biomarkers linked to mitochondrial health, including proteins linked to mitophagy and mitochondrial metabolism. Again, not a magic transformation, but a consistent theme. Biomarkers and endurance-style outcomes seem to be where urolithin A shows its strongest early signal. So what does the human data actually suggest, in the cleanest possible summary? Strongest evidence: Mitochondrial biomarker improvements and modest endurance improvements, especially in older or less trained populations. Moderate evidence, metabolic flexibility and inflammation-related signals can shift. Weak or unclear. Big strength gains, big VO2 max jumps, fat loss, or anything that looks like this will extend your lifespan. That last part matters. There is zero human evidence that urolithin extends lifespan. And we should not pretend that mitophagy marker improved equals you added 12 years. It might be useful, it might be supportive, but we're not skipping the evidence step. Now let's talk dosing, because people always ask. In the longer older adult trials, doses like 500 mg and 1000 mg have been tested, and both were generally well tolerated. Many reviewers end up landing on 500 mg daily as the most evidence-aligned default, with 1000 mg sometimes used in studies without clearly proving it's universally better. The practical way to think about it is this. If you're going to test a mitochondria supplement, you want to use a dose that's actually been studied in humans for months, not a sprinkle dose that makes the label look pretty. This is where underdosed blends go to die. Safety-wise, the studies in older adults reported good tolerability over months, with no major lab abnormalities attributed to the supplement. Mild GI upset can happen, but it appears uncommon in the published trials. The bigger safety truth is that long-term, multi-year use data is still limited, so we treat it like a promising tool, not a forever vitamin. Now, who is Urolithin A for? This is the part that makes the episode actionable. Best candidates are adults 50+ who feel that energy efficiency has declined. People who are sedentary or just starting training again. People with early sarcopenia risk who want to support endurance and recovery while they rebuild strength. And people who have the classic story of, I'm doing the basics, but my stamina feels older than I am. Possible candidates include metabolically stressed individuals, higher inflammation, insulin resistance, because the biomarker signals might matter more when baseline mitochondrial health is compromised. But the evidence base here is still developing, so we keep it honest. Least likely to benefit are young, highly trained athletes with already strong mitochondrial capacity. If your mitochondria are already running like a Swiss watch, paying premium money for a mitochondria upgrade may be like buying a turbo for a car that already can't find parking. Now, who should skip or at least talk to a clinician first? Pregnancy and breastfeeding, default skip. Active cancer therapy, skip unless supervised, because mitochondrial signaling in cancer contexts is complicated and not a DIY experiment. Significant kidney or liver disease, talk to your clinician. And very elderly adults with heavy polypharmacy should be cautious because interaction data is limited. Now let's compare Urolithin A to the other mitochondria strategies, because this is where we protect viewers from magical thinking. The best mitochondria supplement is still exercise. Zone 2 training, resistance training, and even short bursts of higher intensity are proven to improve mitochondrial function and muscle resilience. Calorie control and metabolic health reduce mitochondrial stress. Sleep and circadian consistency reduce chronic stress signaling that can impair recovery. Urolithin A might be an amplifier. It is not a replacement. If you aren't training, Urolithin A is not going to hack you into fitness. It's more like adding a support beam while you rebuild the house. So here's the most practical way to use this, if you're interested. Run it as a 60 to 90 day experiment, not a lifelong commitment. Keep training consistent, keep protein adequate, and track something that matters, your endurance in a repeatable test. That could be a 6-minute walk distance, a timed stair climb, a fixed distance row, or even a simple, how many step-ups can I do with good form? If your stamina improves and recovery feels better, that's meaningful. If nothing changes, you learned it probably wasn't your limiting factor. Now, the quality checklist, because this category is marketing heavy. Look for a clinically studied form and third-party testing when possible. Avoid proprietary blends, avoid pixie dust doses, and avoid companies that refuse to show real testing data. And remember the final truth that keeps this episode honest. Urolithin A is one of the more mechanistically compelling supplements with early-stage human data showing mitochondrial biomarker improvements and modest endurance signals. But it's not a miracle, not proven for longevity, and the effect size is likely subtle. If this helped, Hit like and subscribe, and check the description for tools and affiliate links that support the real mitochondria upgrade, training, recovery, monitoring, and our Longevity Compass Amazon KDP book. And drop a comment. Are you mitophagy curious, or are you in the show me outcomes camp?